I'm just gonna tell you a little bit about my story, about how I got into strongman and what's motivated me throughout the years of getting to where I am now. And well, it all started when I was about 9 years old, and I loved playing video games, sitting on the couch, just being a total couch potato. And one day my dad said, okay, son, I've had enough. You're coming into the gym with me. And I fought him on it, and eventually went in and started working out, and I absolutely hated it. But my dad kept pushing me and saying, okay, if you hate it after a year, then you could stop. So I gave it about a year. My dad trained me, and I got strong in that time, and I just fell in love with it. And then I would also spend summers in Latvia, where my grandparents had a farm, and my grandfather was a sculptor. With a stone, he had all these giant rocks on the farm. And just in this time, I was starting to get a little bit stronger through working out with my dad. And my grandfather also loved strength and used to do like Olympic weightlifting style back when he was younger. So I would help him move rocks around the farm. And he would teach me how to like pick them up and move them. And I just got stronger and stronger also through farm work and just being out in the country. And one day I saw there was this, just on TV, these big, strong guys essentially doing farm work for competition. This was strongman. And I thought, oh shoot, I could do that. And this curiosity started to grow in me, wondering like, what is it that human beings can do with their strength? What is possible? Like, okay, when I go to the gym, I could just put on some numbers on a machine or throw on some plates and I'm lifting a certain amount of pounds or kilograms, but what does that mean? What can I do with that strength? And I've always found that strongman is the answer to that. Strongman shows us what functionality we can get out of the strength we develop in the gym. So I always wondered, can a human being pick up a car, carry a car, what's the biggest rock that could be lifted? So then my desire to be part of that world of strongman grew, and all my training, even at 10 years old, started to become focused towards one day becoming a strongman. And I also loved it because my dad got me started with bodybuilding and powerlifting. And before I knew about strongman, I thought, well, shoot, I love bodybuilding, I love powerlifting, I want to get competitive one day, but I don't think I could do both. At that time, I didn't really know of that many very successful bodybuilders and powerlifter hybrids. So then not only was strongman like an answer of what we could do with our bodies, but it combined everything that I loved about lifting. With strongman, I could do bodybuilding, I could do powerlifting, I could do Olympic weightlifting and anything in between. And I just pulled it all together. And so then it began, and I started lifting for it. And during this period, I was living in Massachusetts growing up. That's where I moved from Latvia to Massachusetts when I was about 4 years old and would go back and forth, Latvia. And right when I was in Massachusetts, right around 15, 16, I started getting so much stronger than all the other adults. And but basically anybody in my school, anybody in the gym, I was already stronger than them. And at that point, I thought, okay, I'm ready to start getting into strongman. But there was nobody to train with where I lived. So right around the year, when I was 20, I made the trip out to California. And when I was in Cali, I looked up a list of strongman competitions and found one in LA and called up the number for it just because I thought I need to meet somebody to train with. I've never really put a lot of time into true strongman training. And Odd Haugen picks up on the phone with this heavy Norwegian accent. I didn't know who it was, but basically I told him all my strengths and said like I really want to compete in this contest. And he said, oh yeah, you're very strong, but not quite strong enough. And I thought, well, hold on. I don't care how I do. I really don't care. I just want to be part of this and meet somebody to train with. I'm only really going for networking. So, oh, why didn't you just say so? Just come over to my garage. I'll train you. And so I go over to his garage and I was starstruck because I didn't realize who it was. This is a guy that I've been watching on TV, a legend in strength for many years. And this guy in his mid-50s placed 6th in World's Strongest Man. Who does that? I want to be that strong when I'm 50s, 60s, and so on. And so my training began. And through his training, one year into training with him, I got 6th in California Strongest Man. The following year, 3rd. But I would go. Then I would start compete. I started competing in NAS Nationals, and so getting like 20th place. Then the following year, 12th. So not doing that great. But then after a few years, like every single year, I asked, could I compete in that LA show? Because that LA show was a pro-am show. And he would keep saying, no, I'm not ready. No, you're not ready. You're not ready. And 3 years finally into training, he finally allowed me to compete in that LA show of his. And I competed with other pros. And I had 3 months to train for it, and my training became more laser focused than it ever been before. Because this was a pro qualifying show. If I won this show, I would become a pro. And so then I competed, and I won. So 3 years of me begging him to get me into that show, he finally allows me in, and I win it. And I get my pro card, and it's this amazing feeling, and finally really opening that door to the rest of my strongman life, because I knew it. One day I would become one of the World's Strongest Man finalists and compete on that level. So then, with all this excitement of getting my pro card, I just start messaging out to Colin Bryce, like obsessively, like I need to compete in Giants Live. I absolutely, please let me in. Like I'll do whatever it takes. And after like spamming his inbox for weeks, he finally responds to me. He's like, okay, message Magnus for Magnuson. He'll get you into his show in Iceland. It's a Giants Live show. It's a qualifier for World's Strongest Man. We'll take you on. So then I'm messaging Magnus, same thing, spamming his inbox for a couple weeks before he actually gets back to me. And he lets me in his show, and I compete against Hafthor Bjornsson, Mark Felix, and all these other really strong guys. And I just thought, I just need to test myself against these higher level pros just to see where I'm at. So I go to Iceland, and by the way, during this whole time, I've never been that statically strong. Even when I got my pro card, a lot of these other strongmen were significantly stronger than me. One thing that allows me that has allowed me to get to where I have been is just a steady approach that involves a lot of technical work. Even though I was not statically strong, I had the technique to be able to do events faster and better than a lot of these bigger and stronger guys. So that's always been a point of pride for me. So going into this Giants Live show, I also knew that I was one of the weakest guys out in the field, but also one of the technically most sound athletes out there. My mobility is also great, which allows me to get into positions other guys cannot get into. That doesn't sound right. So anyways, I go to the Giants Live in Iceland. I'm starstruck when I see Hafthor Bjornsson. Been watching him on TV and just craving that chance to get to go to battle against him. And first event is a yoke carry. I think it was about 900 pounds for about 80 feet. And I'm just getting myself revved up. The 2 days beforehand, I'm pretty known for this dumb feat, which is I went hiking for about 3 hours up. I couldn't help it. A couple days before one of my biggest shows, I see this beautiful mountain out in the back behind our log cabin that we're staying in. And I take one of the film crew members, and we go on this insane cliff hike where there was moments I thought I was gonna lose my life, but I just couldn't help. I had to climb that mountain. I thought it'd be half an hour. It took us 3 hours to get up and back. And we came back just covered with dirt. My legs were shaking. My whole body was sore. Colin Bryce is laughing at me, calling me an idiot for doing it, but I had to do it. So then 2 days later, I compete. My body's already a wreck from that little venture. And as I was doing the yoke carry, about half of the guys finished it within 30 seconds. And it was unlimited drops. At that point, I finished it in 59 seconds. We had a minute to finish it. I finished it in 59 seconds. So I was probably in the middle pack right there, because a lot of guys didn't finish it as well. And right in the very end of that yoke run, I felt this cramp in my back like none other. And it just felt like I wouldn't be able to finish the contest. So already, first event in, I'm thinking, what am I doing here? I don't belong here. These guys are on a totally different level. But of course, I'm here. I'm here to compete. No matter how beat up my body is, I need to see this through the end. So I'm going to continue this contest. So I lay down and I roll out as deep as I can. The knot doesn't quite go away. My back is just flaring up. And the next event is a truck pull. And I've always had an excellent technique for truck pull. Even though I'm much lighter than these guys, I basically set myself up in a sprinter stance. A lot of these bigger guys just rely on their weight and they just lean into it, then it gets slowly going. I allow my knees and hips to bend, and I'm basically wound up like in a squat position, facing the opposite, basically facing the way the truck is facing. So I go, and like I said, my body's already wrecked, but I went all out on this truck pull. And I did it in about 28 seconds, 80 feet, a 20,000 pound truck, and nobody beat me. Even when it came down to Hafthor, I'm sure like on a heavier truck later on, he's beating me, but with that lighter truck, I was able to get my feet and arms moving faster than anybody. I got first place on that truck. And just like, it was an upset. Everyone's like, where the hell did this guy come from? What the hell, how is this possible? Next event is Husafell carry. Well, actually, not a Husafell. It was like a mooring bit. So weight really low down, and it's knocking between my ankles. And one thing I have above, again, these bigger guys was my endurance. So I actually ended up taking, I think, third place in the Husafell carry. It was Hafthor, Mark Felix, and then myself. So going into day, so that was day one. Then the next day, going into day two, I was now in third place. But after, then the static lifts came in. Log press, I must have gotten mid-pack, couldn't keep up. Shoulders, not there yet. Deadlift, top third pack. And at this point, I'm just probably in the top half of the competitors, but not doing that great. But then comes stones. Stones is something I train religiously. It is something I believe is a staple of strongman. Almost every contest has stones in it. And a lot of strongmen make this mistake of putting it off. They'll train stones once every 2 weeks, once a month. And even if I don't have stones in a contest, I'll be training stones weekly, sometimes twice a week. So here comes stones, and it starts to rain. It gets cold, the stones get slippery, everyone's just putting their tacky on outside, and they're not really doing anything to be able to spread it because it's wet. So I go to this building where I find a heater, and I take this tacky and I spread it out really thin so there's no goops that slip. And I basically put tacky up by the heater, really make sure it melts in, gets into all my crevices. And then I put towels over my arms, and then I wait until it's about to be my turn. Just in the very last second do I allow myself to go out in the rain, like wipe off the stone, and I get 5 reps with this 400-something pound stone over a bar about chest high. And then I just leave and wait back, and everyone's slipping on the stones. They can't lift the stones. Hafthor goes. He gets 2 reps and then keeps slipping on the stone. Couldn't even get it up beyond that. And I win stones. And nobody even really watched my stone run. So everybody, some other guys got 3-4 reps, they're cheering like, yes, I won. And then then Colin Bryce looks at this other guy, I think his name was John Pose, and he's just like cheering. He's like, wait, And Colin says, well, you didn't win, somebody got better than you. And John goes, what, who? And I'm like, me. And nobody beat me in the stones. So therefore I rocketed back up to 3rd place. And that was my invite to World's Strongest Man. And from then on, I just ate like a monster to gain weight and get that static strength up. And a year later, competed in World's Strongest Man finally. And again, I was not statically the strongest, but because I knew how to position my body, knew technique, and I knew how to use my strength to the fullest, I ended up placing 6th in my first World's Strongest Man contest. And then the next year, my static strength finally caught up, placed 4th, and I've been in the top 5 ever since. My goal now is to win it, and also win Arnold's Strongman Classic as well. So here we go. It's just beginning.